Stop it right now! Get away from her!
The first time I died, I was 12 years old. Not literally, but close enough. That's the night Darren broke 3 of my ribs and told me my parents deserved to burn in that car. The night I stopped being Maria and became his punching bag. Tonight? Tonight he was going to finish what he started. I heard his boots on the stairs. Heavy. Dragging. The sound that meant he'd emptied another bottle. My hands shook over the sink. The dish slipped. It shattered. Time stopped. Maria! His roar shook the walls. I didn't move. Couldn't. My body knew what was coming before my brain did. The door exploded open. Darren stood there, eyes red, face twisted, fists already clenched. He looked at the broken plate, then at me. You worthless piece of... The slap cracked across my face so hard I saw stars. My head snapped sideways. Blood filled my mouth. Clean it. Now. I dropped to my knees, hands trembling as I grabbed the pieces. One sliced my palm open. Blood dripped onto the floor, mixing with cold dishwater. He kicked me in the ribs. The air left my lungs. I couldn't scream. Couldn't breathe. Just curled up small, praying it would end. It never ended. Your parents were smart, he hissed, crouching down so his alcohol-soaked breath burned my face. They left before they had to watch you grow up into nothing. Something inside me cracked. Not my ribs this time. Something deeper. I wanted to vanish, to stop existing. 2. Bang, bang, bang. 3 hard knocks at the door. Darren froze mid-swing. I froze too. Nobody knocks at this house. Not at midnight. Not ever. The hell? Darren stumbled to the door, yanking it open. What? I couldn't see from the floor. But I heard the voice that would change everything. I'm here for Maria. Deep, calm, deadly. My heart stuttered. Darren laughed, that ugly, drunk laugh. You're here for who? Get lost before I... Step aside. 2 words, but the way he said them made the entire house feel smaller. Who the hell do you think you are? Darren puffed up, trying to look tough. Silence. Then, the man who's about to ruin your life if you don't move. I forced myself to look up. He stood in the doorway like he owned it. Tall, black suit, dark hair, but his eyes, God, his eyes were like ice and fire at the same time. Cold, sharp, dangerous. Those eyes found me on the floor, and something in them changed. You. His voice dropped lower. Get up. I couldn't move. He walked past Darren like he was invisible. In 3 strides, he was crouching in front of me. Hand extended. You're done here, he said quietly. Come with me. Now. I don't know you. My voice cracked. You don't need to. His jaw tightened. But you know him. And in 10 seconds, he's going to try to stop you from leaving, and when he does, I'm going to break both his arms. My breath caught. So here's your choice, Maria. His eyes locked onto mine. Stay here and let him kill you slowly. Or take my hand and find out why I drove 4 hours in the middle of the night to pull you out of hell. How did he know my name? My hand moved on its own. The second our fingers touched, Darren lunged, but this man was faster. He stood, spun, and caught Darren's fist mid-air. The crack echoed through the kitchen. Darren screamed. Darren hit the floor, screaming. I stared at his twisted wrist, bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. The man didn't even look winded. He just stood there, calm, like breaking bones was something he did before breakfast. You broke my arm, Darren howled, cradling his hand. I'll call the cops. I'll sue you. You'll do nothing. The man's voice was ice. Because the second you pick up that phone, I make one call. And by morning, every judge, every cop, every person in this town will know exactly what you've been doing to her. Darren's face went white. That's what I thought. He turned back to me, his expression softening just slightly. We need to leave. Now. My legs wouldn't move. 3 years of beatings had taught me one thing. Don't trust anyone. Don't hope. Hope gets you hurt worse. Why? The words scraped out of my throat. Why are you doing this? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or regret. Because no one did it for her. Her? Who was her? Before I could ask, he grabbed a kitchen towel and wrapped it around my bleeding hand. His touch was gentle. Careful. Like I might shatter. No one had touched me like that in years. My car's outside, he said. I'm walking out that door. You can follow me and live, or stay here and... His eyes flicked to Darren, still whimpering on the floor. Well, you know how that ends. He didn't wait for an answer, just turned and walked out. I looked at Darren, at the broken plate, at the blood on the floor, mine and his mixed together like some sick painting. This house had been my prison for 3 years. My feet moved, one step, then another. Then I was running. The cold night air hit my face like a slap. I'd forgotten what outside felt like, what freedom tasted like. A black car sat in the driveway, sleek, expensive, the kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood. He opened the passenger door. Get in. I hesitated. Every survival instinct I had left screamed at me. Strange man, strange car. What if this was worse? Then Darren's voice exploded from the house. Maria, get back here. I dove into the car. The door slammed. Engine roared. Tires screeched. We were gone. I pressed my face against the cold window, watching the only home I'd known disappear into the darkness. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. What's your name? I whispered. Blake. Blake what? He glanced at me. Morgan. Blake Morgan. The name sounded familiar, like I'd heard it on TV maybe, or read it somewhere. Where are we going? His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Somewhere he'll never find you. The way he said it, so certain, so final, made me realize something terrifying. This man wasn't just rescuing me. He was hiding me. What had I just gotten myself into? We drove in silence for 20 minutes. Blake didn't speak, didn't look at me, just stared at the road like he was calculating something. I couldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, and reality was crashing down. I'd just left. Actually, left. After 3 years of dreaming about escape, I'd finally done it, but with a complete stranger. How did you know? My voice cracked. How did you know where I was? How did you know my name? Blake's jaw tightened. Does it matter? Yes. The word came out sharper than I meant. You show up at midnight, break my stepfather's arm, and kidnap me. I didn't kidnap you. You chose to get in the car, because you gave me 10 seconds to decide, and you made the right choice. Silence crashed between us. I wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something, but I was so tired, so broken. I'm not the enemy, Maria. His voice softened just slightly. I know you don't trust me. I know you have no reason to, but I promise you, I'm not going to hurt you. Everyone says that. I'm not everyone. The confidence in his voice should have annoyed me, but something about it felt different. Real. We turned off the highway onto a private road. Trees pressed in on both sides, blocking out the moonlight. Where are we? My home. Home. The word felt foreign. I hadn't had a home in 3 years, just a house where I waited to die. The trees opened up. I gasped. A mansion. An actual mansion sat in front of us, all stone walls and tall windows glowing with warm light. It looked like something from a movie, the kind of place people like me only saw in magazines. This is yours? I whispered. Yes. What are you, a drug dealer? Blake almost smiled. Almost. Businessman. I run Morgan Enterprises. The name clicked. Morgan Enterprises. I'd seen it on billboards downtown. Tech company. Big money. Billionaire money. My stomach dropped. Why would someone like you care about someone like me? Blake parked the car and killed the engine. For a long moment he just sat there, hands gripping the wheel. Then he turned to me, and I saw it. The thing he'd been hiding behind that cold mask. Pain. Deep, raw, unhealed pain. 5 years ago, he said quietly, my sister was in a situation like yours. Bad home. Abusive stepfather, no way out. My breath caught. I was away on business. She called me one night, begging for help. I told her I'd come get her in the morning. His voice cracked. By morning, she was gone. Disappeared. No trace, no body, nothing. Oh God, I've spent 5 years looking for her. 5 years drowning in guilt. His eyes locked onto mine. I couldn't save her, but I can save you. Tears burned my eyes. This wasn't about me. It never was. I was his second chance, his redemption, and suddenly everything made sense. I couldn't speak. Blake's confession hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. His sister, gone, because he was too late, and now I was here, his do-over, his chance to fix what he couldn't 5 years ago. Part of me wanted to feel used, angry, like I was just a replacement for someone he'd lost. But the other part, the part that had prayed every night for someone, anyone, to see me, that part didn't care why he came. He came. That's what mattered. I'm sorry, I whispered, about your sister. Blake's expression hardened again, walls slamming back into place. Don't be sorry. Just come inside. He got out of the car without another word. I sat there for a moment, staring at the mansion. Everything felt surreal, like I'd fallen asleep scrubbing dishes, and this was just another cruel dream I'd wake up from. But the pain in my ribs was real. The cut on my hand was real. This was happening. I stepped out of the car. My legs almost buckled. How long had it been since I'd walked without fear, without checking over my shoulder? Blake waited at the front door, hands in his pockets. Patient, like he had all the time in the world. I climbed the steps slowly. Each one felt like walking into a different universe. He opened the door. Marble floors, crystal chandelier, paintings that probably cost more than Darren made in 10 years. I didn't belong here. Your room's upstairs, Blake said. Second door on the right. There's clothes in the closet, bathrooms attached. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. You're just letting me stay here? Just like that? Would you prefer I make you sleep outside? No, I struggled to find words. What do you want from me? Blake turned to face me fully. Nothing. Everyone wants something. I want you to heal. His voice was firm. I want you to eat real food, sleep without nightmares, wake up without checking if someone's about to hit you. That's what I want. Tears blurred my vision. I blinked them back hard. Why are you being nice to me? Because someone should have been nice to my sister. His voice cracked on the last word. And no one was. He turned away quickly, but not before I saw the moisture in his eyes. Get some rest, he said, already walking toward a hallway. We'll talk in the morning. Then he was gone. I stood alone in that massive entryway, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt. Upstairs, I found the room. It was bigger than the entire first floor of Darren's house. The bed looked like a cloud. White sheets, soft pillows, clean. I hadn't slept in anything clean in months. I locked the door, checked it twice, then collapsed onto the bed fully clothed. The second my head hit the pillow, I broke. 3 years of held-back tears came flooding out. I sobbed into the expensive sheets until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. But for the first time in forever, I wasn't crying from pain. I was crying from relief. I was free. I woke up screaming. The nightmare was always the same. Darren's hands around my throat, his voice in my ear telling me I deserved it. But this time, when I opened my eyes, I wasn't on that thin mattress in that cold room. I was here, in silk sheets, in safety. Sunlight poured through massive windows. I'd forgotten what morning looked like when you weren't terrified of it. Someone knocked on the door. I froze. "Maria," Blake's voice. "You okay?" I heard. "I'm fine," I said too quickly. Silence. Then, "Breakfast is downstairs when you're ready." His footsteps faded. I looked down at myself. Still in yesterday's clothes, torn jeans, blood-stained shirt. I probably smelled like fear and dishwater. The closet was full of clothes. Real clothes. Jeans that didn't have holes, shirts that weren't 2 sizes too big. Everything still had tags on them. He'd bought these, for me, before he even came to get me. How long had he been planning this? I showered for the first time in weeks. The hot water stung my bruises, but I didn't care. I scrubbed until my skin was red, trying to wash away 3 years of dirt and shame. When I finally went downstairs, Blake was in the kitchen, cooking, a billionaire, cooking breakfast. "You cook?" I blurted out. He glanced up. "You sound surprised." "I am. I lived alone for 5 years after my sister disappeared. Had to learn." He slid a plate across the counter. Eggs, toast, bacon, real food. My stomach growled so loud it echoed. Blake almost smiled. "Sit." I sat, stared at the plate. When was the last time someone made me food that wasn't moldy leftovers? "Eat," Blake said gently. I picked up the fork. My hand shook. The first bite hit my tongue, and I almost cried again. It was warm, fresh, seasoned. Everything Darren's scraps never were. I ate like I'd never see food again. Blake watched me quietly, not judging, just watching. "Slow down," he said. "You'll make yourself sick." I forced myself to take smaller bites. "Thank you," I whispered. He nodded. "We need to talk about what happens next." My stomach dropped. Here it comes. The catch. The price. "You can't go back to that house," Blake continued. "Ever. That means you need a legal guardian until you're 18. I've already contacted my lawyers." "Lawyers?" "I'm filing for emergency custody. Temporary guardianship." With Darren's record and the evidence, he gestured to my bruised face. "It shouldn't be hard." I set down my fork. "You're adopting me?" "Legally protecting you," Blake corrected. "There's a difference." "Why? You don't even know me." His eyes hardened. "I know enough. I know you've survived 3 years of hell. I know you're stronger than you think, and I know," his voice caught, "I know my sister would still be alive if someone had done this for her." There it was again. The guilt. The weight he carried like chains. "I'm not your sister," I said quietly. "I know." Blake looked me straight in the eye. "But maybe saving you will finally let me sleep at night." 3 days passed like a fever dream. Blake's lawyers moved fast. Court orders, restraining orders, emergency custody hearings. Words I didn't understand flew around me while I sat in expensive offices, nodding when they told me to. Darren tried to fight it. Of course he did. But Blake had money, power, and evidence. Photos of every bruise, every scar, every broken bone I'd hidden for 3 years. The judge took one look at me and made her decision in 4 minutes. I was free, legally, finally. But freedom felt strange, wrong almost. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Blake to snap, to show his real face, to become what Darren was. He never did. Instead, he gave me space. Let me wander the mansion, explore, breathe. But I saw the way he watched me sometimes, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he blinked. Like I was a ghost he was trying to convince himself was real. One night I found him in his office. The door was cracked open, and I heard something that made me stop. Crying. Blake Morgan. The man who broke Darren's wrist without flinching. The billionaire who commanded rooms with a look. He was crying. I pushed the door open slowly. He sat at his desk, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. A photograph lay in front of him. A girl, maybe 16, with Blake's eyes and a bright smile. His sister. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean to." "It's fine." He wiped his face roughly, like he was angry at himself for showing emotion. "What do you need?" "Nothing. I stepped closer. I heard you, and I'm fine." "You're not." Blake's jaw clenched. "Maria." "You saved me," I interrupted. "But who saves you?" The question hung between us like a challenge. Blake stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed, bitter and hollow. "No one. That's not how this works." "Why not?" "Because I don't deserve saving." He picked up the photo. I let her down. I was too busy building an empire to notice she was dying in a house 10 miles away. By the time I paid attention, his voice cracked. She was gone. I moved closer, sat in the chair across from him. "It wasn't your fault." "Yes, it was." "No." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "I lived it. I know what it's like. Your sister didn't disappear because you weren't there. She disappeared because someone evil took her. That's not on you." Blake looked at me like I'd slapped him. "You don't understand. I understand better than anyone." I leaned forward. "You think I blamed my parents for dying in that crash? For leaving me with Darren? I did, for months, but it wasn't their fault, and your sister's disappearance wasn't yours." Silence filled the room. Then Blake did something I never expected. He broke down completely, and for the first time since I'd met him, I realized something. We were both broken, both haunted, both drowning in guilt we didn't deserve. Maybe that's why he found me, not to save me, but to save himself. Hey, welcome to the channel. Before we continue Maria's story, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your country and what time it is for you right now in the comments. And tell me, do you have siblings? How's your relationship with your family? This is a brand new channel, and your support would mean absolutely everything to me. If you're hooked on Maria and Blake's story, hit that like button and subscribe. It'll help us reach more people who need to hear this. Now, let's get back to the story. The next morning, something shifted. Blake was different. Lighter somehow. Like crying had released something he'd been holding on to for too long. We ate breakfast together. Actually talked. Not just surface stuff. Real conversation. "What do you want to do?" Blake asked, setting down his coffee. "School, job training, college eventually." I blinked. No one had ever asked me what I wanted. "I don't know," I admitted. "I never thought past surviving." "Well, you're past that now. So think." I stared at my plate. What did I want? The question felt impossible. "I liked drawing," I said slowly. "Before everything. I used to draw all the time. Then draw. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple." Blake stood up. "Come with me." He led me to a room I hadn't explored yet. When he opened the door, my breath caught. An art studio, complete with easels, canvases, paints, brushes, everything. "When?" I whispered. "Yesterday. While you were sleeping." Blake leaned against the doorframe. "You mentioned drawing once. I figured you'd need supplies." Tears burned my eyes. Again. I'd cried more in 4 days here than I had in 3 years with Darren, but these were different tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll use it." Blake's voice was gentle. "Say you'll remember what it feels like to create instead of just survive." I walked into the room slowly, running my fingers over the blank canvases. 3 years ago, I'd stopped dreaming. Stopped imagining a future. I just existed, waiting for the pain to end. But standing in that studio with sunlight pouring through the windows and Blake watching me with something like hope in his eyes, I started dreaming again. 2 weeks in paradise and I still waited for the trap. Because that's what this had to be, right? A trap. Men like Blake didn't just rescue broken girls out of kindness. There was always a price. I spent hours in the art studio painting everything I'd buried for 3 years. Dark canvases, violent brushstrokes, pain in color. Blake never commented, just brought me food when I forgot to eat. Water when I forgot to drink, but I caught him staring sometimes, at me, at my paintings, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. One night, I found a file on his desk. I shouldn't have looked. I knew better. But curiosity is a dangerous thing when you've spent years being kept in the dark. The file was labeled Sarah Morgan, his sister. My hands shook as I opened it. Newspaper clippings, police reports, private investigator notes, and photos. So many photos of a girl who looked happy in some, terrified in others. Then I saw it. The last known photo of Sarah. My blood turned to ice. She was standing outside a house I recognized. Darren's house. No. Maria. I spun around. Blake stood in the doorway, face unreadable. I can explain, I started. Can you? He stepped into the room slowly. Too slowly. Because I've been waiting 2 weeks for you to ask me the real question. My heart hammered. What question? Why that house? Blake's eyes were cold now, sharp. Out of every abused kid in this city. Why did I choose you? The room tilted. What are you talking about? Blake walked to his desk, pulled out another file. Thicker. Older. He dropped it in front of me. Open it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I flipped it open. The first page was a photo. Sarah Morgan standing with a man. Darren. Younger. Cleaner. Smiling. No, I whispered. 5 years ago, my sister was dating your stepfather, Blake said, voice like gravel. Before he married your mom? Before you moved in? She called me one night, said he was getting violent. I told her I'd come in the morning. Oh, God. By morning, she was gone. Vanished. No body. No trace. Police found nothing. Blake's hands clenched into fists. I hired investigators, spent millions. They all hit dead ends. Until 3 months ago. I couldn't breathe. One investigator found something. A storage unit Darren rented 5 years ago, still pays for it monthly, and inside, his voice cracked. Enough evidence to prove he killed her. The words hit me like bullets. You think Darren murdered your sister? I don't think. I know. Blake's eyes burned into mine. And I've spent 3 months building an airtight case against him, but I needed one more thing. My stomach dropped. What? A witness. Someone who lived in that house. Someone who might have seen something. Heard something. He leaned forward. Someone like you. The truth crashed down on me like a building collapsing. You didn't save me, I whispered. You used me. Blake said nothing. You needed me to testify. To help you put Darren away for your sister's murder. That's why you came. That's why you did all this. My voice rose. The room. The clothes. The art studio. It was all just... What? Bait? Maria. Answer me. Yes, Blake roared. Yes, I needed you. I needed someone who'd been inside that house, who knew his patterns, his hiding spots, his secrets. I stumbled backward. So, everything was a lie. Not everything. Which part was real, Blake? The part where you pretended to care? Or the part where you used a broken kid to solve your vendetta? Silence crashed between us. Then Blake did something that shocked me. He got on his knees. You're right, he said quietly. I used you. I manipulated you. I saw an opportunity and I took it. But Maria, his voice broke. Everything else was real. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But I'd learned the hard way. Trust is just another word for weakness. And I was done being weak. I ran. Didn't think. Didn't plan. Just ran. Out of the office. Down the marble stairs. Through the massive front door. The night air was cold and sharp. I didn't care. I kept running down the long driveway. tears streaming down my face. "Maria," Blake's voice echoed behind me. I ran faster. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but the pain felt good. Real. Better than the hollow ache in my chest. I'd been so stupid, so desperate to believe someone actually cared about me that I'd walked right into another trap. Footsteps pounded behind me. Blake was faster, stronger. He caught up in seconds, grabbing my arm. "Let me go!" I screamed, yanking away. "Maria, please! You lied to me," my voice cracked. "You made me think I mattered, that I was worth saving, but I was just a tool. A weapon you could use against Darren. That's not... Did you even care that I was being beaten?" I was sobbing now. "Or were you just happy you finally had leverage?" Blake's face twisted in pain. "Both." The honesty of it hit me like a slap. "What?" "Both," he repeated, voice raw. "When my investigator told me about you, about what Darren was doing, yes, my first thought was the case. But then I saw the photos, the hospital reports, the way you disappeared from school records for weeks at a time." His voice broke, and all I could see was Sarah. How she must have suffered before he couldn't finish. "So you came for me," I said bitterly. "I came for you because I couldn't leave you there." Blake stepped closer. "Yes, I need your testimony. Yes, I need you to help me prove what Darren did. But Maria..." He grabbed my shoulders gently. "I would have come anyway, even if you couldn't help my case, even if you knew nothing. I couldn't let you die in that house like my sister did." I wanted to push him away, to scream that he was a liar, but something in his eyes stopped me. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm not asking you to help me." Blake's voice was steady now. "I'm giving you a choice. If you want to walk away, I'll drive you anywhere you want to go. Different city, different state. I'll set you up with money, housing, everything. No strings attached." My breath caught. "You'd let me leave?" "Yes." "Even though you need me for your case?" "Even though." Blake's hands dropped from my shoulders. "I won't force you to relive your trauma just to get my justice. You've suffered enough." I stared at him, searching for the lie, the manipulation. But all I saw was a broken man telling the truth. "And if I stay?" I whispered. Blake's jaw tightened. "If you stay, I'll need your help. I'll need you to remember everything about that house. Every detail, every sound, every hiding spot." He paused. "I'll need you to testify that Darren is capable of murder." My stomach churned. "But if you stay," Blake continued softly, "I promise you, I will never lie to you again. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas, just the truth." I looked back at the mansion, then at the road leading away. Two choices, two different futures. Run and stay safe. Stay and face the demon who destroyed both our lives. "If I help you," I said slowly, "and we put Darren away, what happens to me after?" Blake's eyes softened. "You stay. For as long as you want. This isn't temporary, Maria. Guardian or not, case or not, you have a home here." "Why?" "Because..." His voice cracked again. "Because I failed Sarah. And I won't fail you." I stayed. Not because I trusted Blake completely, not because I forgave him. I stayed because Darren needed to pay. For me, for Sarah, for every person he'd ever hurt. The next morning, Blake's investigator arrived. Marcus, a tall man with tired eyes and a thick folder. "Maria," he said gently, sitting across from me in Blake's office. "I know this is hard, but I need you to walk me through everything you remember about the house." My hands clenched in my lap. "Like what?" "Hiding spots, locked rooms, places Darren didn't want you to go." My mind flashed back. 3 years of walking on eggshells, of noticing everything to stay alive. "The basement," I whispered. He never let me go down there. Said if he caught me near it, he'd break my legs. Marcus and Blake exchanged looks. Did you ever hear anything from down there? Marcus asked. Sounds? Voices? I closed my eyes, forcing myself back to that house. That prison. Sometimes, I said slowly. Late at night. I'd hear... My voice caught. Crying. Like someone crying. But when I asked Darren about it, he said it was just pipes. Blake's hands clenched into fists. Anything else? Marcus pressed. He got mail sometimes. Brown packages. Always took them straight to the basement. And once, I stopped, remembering something I'd buried. Once I found a key. Small. Old-looking. Hidden in his bedroom drawer. What did you do with it? Put it back. I was too scared to... Guilt washed over me. What if that key opened the basement? What if Sarah was down there and I just... Stop. Blake's voice was firm. You were a kid. A terrified kid trying to survive. This is not your fault. But it felt like my fault. We need that key, Marcus said. Darren probably moved it by now, I muttered. Maybe. Maybe not. Marcus pulled out photos. Crime scene photos of Darren's house. Police searched the main floors. Found nothing. But they didn't have probable cause for the basement. Why not? Because legally they had no evidence a crime happened there. Marcus looked at me. But if you testify about the sounds, the packages, the key, that gives us probable cause. My stomach turned. You want me to go back? No, Blake said sharply. She's not going anywhere near that house. Blake, we need... I don't care what we need. She's not going back. I stared at Blake, at the fierce protectiveness in his eyes. 2 weeks ago, I had nothing. No one. Now I had someone willing to fight for me. I'll do it, I said quietly. Both men looked at me. Maria. You don't have to, Blake started. Yes, I do. My voice was stronger now. If there's even a chance Sarah's down there, if there's evidence that could put Darren away forever, I have to help. Blake looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't, because he knew I was right. Okay, Marcus said, here's what happens next. The plan was simple. Terrifying, but simple. I'd wear a wire, go back to Darren's house with a social worker for a wellness check, ask him questions, get him talking about the basement. He'll never fall for it, I said, pacing Blake's office. He will, Marcus insisted. Darren's arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. Men like him always slip up when they think they've won. Blake hadn't spoken in 10 minutes, just sat at his desk, jaw clenched, staring at nothing. Blake, I said softly. I don't like this. His voice was tight. Too many things could go wrong. We'll have backup, Marcus said. Unmarked cars. Officers inside listening to every word. If Darren even looks at her wrong, he won't just look. Blake stood abruptly. He'll explode, and by the time your officers get inside, she could be... He couldn't finish. The room went silent. I'm doing this, I said firmly. With or without your permission. Blake's eyes snapped to mine. Maria, he killed your sister. He beat me for 3 years. He's probably hurt others we don't even know about. My voice shook but held strong. If I can stop him, I have to try. Blake stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled me into a hug. I froze. No one had hugged me in years. The touch felt foreign. Wrong. But also safe. If anything happens to you, Blake's voice was muffled against my hair. I'll never forgive myself. Nothing's going to happen, I whispered back, even though I didn't believe it, because I knew Darren. And Darren didn't forgive, didn't forget, and he definitely didn't lose. 2 days later, I stood outside the house that had been my prison. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The social worker, Mrs. Chen, squeezed my shoulder. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." The wire itched against my skin under my shirt. Blake and Marcus were 3 blocks away in a van, listening to every word. Police were positioned around the block. But none of that mattered when Mrs. Chen knocked on the door, and Darren answered. He looked worse than I remembered. Thinner. Meaner. His arm was still in a cast from where Blake had broken it. His eyes landed on me, and something dark flickered across his face. "Well, well," he said slowly. "Look who came crawling back." "Mr. Hayes," Mrs. Chen said professionally, "I'm here for a court-ordered wellness check. We need to inspect the premises." "Premises?" Darren laughed. "You mean my house? The house that little brat ran away from?" "I didn't run away," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "I escaped." Darren's smile vanished. "Watch your mouth." "We need to see the basement," I continued, ignoring the fear clawing up my throat. The temperature dropped. "No." "Mr. Hayes, this is court-ordered," Mrs. Chen started. "I don't care if it's God-ordered. Nobody goes in my basement." Darren stepped forward. "Especially not her." "Why?" I pushed. "What are you hiding down there?" "Nothing." "Then let us see it." Darren's face twisted into something ugly. "You think you're smart now? Think that rich boyfriend of yours makes you untouchable?" In my ear, Blake's voice crackled through the hidden earpiece. "We're moving in. Get out of there." But I couldn't. Not yet. "I heard things," I said, voice shaking. "Late at night, coming from the basement, crying. Was that Sarah?" Darren went completely still. "What did you say?" "Sarah Morgan. Blake's sister. Your girlfriend from 5 years ago." I took a step closer. "The one who disappeared. What did you do to her?" The punch came out of nowhere. 1 second I was standing, the next I was on the ground, ears ringing, tasting blood. Mrs. Chen screamed. Darren grabbed my hair, yanking me up. "You want to know what's in the basement?" "I'll show you." He dragged me toward the door, and then everything exploded. "Drop a comment right now. Have you ever had to face someone who hurt you? How did you find the courage? Hit that like button if you're rooting for Maria, and subscribe because this story is about to get wild. You won't want to miss what happens next. The door burst open. Police swarmed in like a flood. Guns drawn. Voices shouting, "Get on the ground!" Darren's grip on my hair released. I collapsed, gasping. Someone pulled me away. Strong arms. Familiar voice. "I've got you. I've got you." Blake. He'd come anyway, even though he was supposed to stay in the van, even though it could compromise the case. He'd come for me. "He hit her!" Mrs. Chen was yelling. "I saw him assault her!" 2 officers tackled Darren to the ground. He fought like an animal, screaming obscenities. "The basement!" I choked out. "Check the basement!" Marcus was already moving, officers behind him. Blake held me tighter. "You're okay. You're safe now." But I wasn't watching Blake. I was watching the basement door as Marcus kicked it open. The smell hit first. Even from across the room, I could smell it. Death. Decay. Something wrong. Marcus disappeared down the stairs. Seconds felt like hours. Then his voice crackled over the radio. "We need CSI. Now." My blood ran cold. "What did you find?" An officer called down. Marcus reappeared at the top of the stairs. His face was gray. "Remains," he said quietly. "Human remains." The world tilted. Blake's arms tightened around me as my legs gave out. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no. It's her," Marcus said, looking at Blake. "I'm sorry." "It's Sarah." Blake made a sound I'd never heard before, something between a sob and a scream. His whole body shook. 5 years of searching. 5 years of hope. Gone. Darren started laughing. cackling like a madman as officers cuffed him. "You want to know what I did to her?" he shouted. "Your precious sister. I'll tell you." She screamed for days before she finally... An officer slammed him face first into the wall. "Shut up." But the damage was done. Blake collapsed to his knees, me still in his arms. We both crumbled together, two broken people shattered by the same monster. "I'm sorry," I sobbed into his chest. "I'm so sorry." "You found her," Blake whispered, voice destroyed. "You brought her home." The funeral was 3 weeks later. Small. Private. Just Blake, me, and a handful of people who'd known Sarah before she disappeared. I stood beside Blake as they lowered the casket into the ground. His hand gripped mine so tight it hurt, but I didn't pull away. He'd spent 5 years searching. 5 years refusing to believe she was really gone. Now he had to bury her. A pastor spoke words that were meant to comfort. About peace, about rest, about how Sarah was in a better place now. But Blake wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on the casket, jaw locked, face carved from stone. When it was over, when everyone else had left, Blake finally spoke. "I should have come sooner." His voice was hollow. "That night she called. I should have dropped everything and driven straight there." "Blake." "I was in a business meeting, negotiating some deal that seemed so important at the time." He laughed bitterly. "I told her I'd come in the morning, that it could wait one more night. You didn't know." "I should have." He turned to me, eyes red. "I'm her big brother. I was supposed to protect her, and I chose money over her life." The pain in his voice broke something in me. "My mama used to say," I started quietly, "that we can't change yesterday. We can only choose what we do with tomorrow." Blake looked at me. "Your sister's gone," I continued. "And God, that's awful. But you saved me, Blake. Because of Sarah. Because of your guilt, you came for me. You pulled me out of that hell. That doesn't bring her back, no. But it means she didn't die for nothing." I squeezed his hand. "You turned your pain into purpose. You saved a life because you couldn't save hers. That matters." Blake's face crumpled. For the second time since I'd known him, he broke down completely. This time I held him while he cried. The trial started 2 months later. Darren pleaded not guilty. Of course he did. His lawyer was sharp, some expensive attorney who specialized in getting guilty men off on technicalities. But the evidence was overwhelming. Sarah's remains in his basement. DNA evidence. The key I'd seen matched the lock on a freezer where I couldn't think about the details without feeling sick. My testimony came on day 3. I'd never been in a courtroom before. It looked nothing like TV. Just a regular room with uncomfortable chairs and 2 bright lights. Darren sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. When I walked in, his eyes locked onto mine, and he smiled. That same cruel smile I'd seen 1,000 times. "Miss Hayes," the prosecutor said gently. She was a middle-aged woman named Patricia who reminded me of the librarian from my old elementary school. "Can you tell the jury about your relationship with the defendant?" My mouth went dry. Blake sat in the gallery behind me. I could feel his presence, solid and steady. "He was my stepfather," I said, voice shaking. "After my parents died in a car accident, I went to live with him." "And how did Mr. Hayes treat you?" The courtroom was silent. Waiting. I looked at Darren. At the man who'd stolen 3 years of my life, who'd murdered Blake's sister, who'd hurt God knows how many others. "He beat me," I said clearly. "Every day for 3 years, and he would have killed me too if Blake Morgan hadn't pulled me out." Darren's smile vanished. "Objection!" His lawyer jumped up. "Speculation!" "Sustained," the judge said. But it didn't matter. The jury had heard it. They'd seen the photos of my bruises, the hospital records, the x-rays of broken bones. They knew what he was. "Miss Hayes," Patricia continued, "can you tell us about the basement?" And so I did. Every detail, every sound, every moment of terror. By the time I finished, 2 jurors were crying. Darren's lawyer tried to tear me apart during cross-examination, called me a liar, a manipulator, said I was just a troubled teen trying to get attention. But I didn't break, because I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I was a survivor, and survivors don't stay quiet. The verdict came back in 4 hours, guilty. On all counts, first-degree murder, kidnapping, child abuse. The list went on and on. The judge's voice was cold as ice. "Mr. Hayes, you have shown yourself to be a danger to society. A predator who preys on the vulnerable. This court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole." Life. No parole. No second chances. Darren would die in prison. The courtroom erupted, people cheering, Sarah's friends crying with relief, but Blake just sat there staring straight ahead. "We did it," I whispered, touching his arm. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, we did." But there was no triumph in his voice, no joy, just emptiness. Because winning the trial didn't bring Sarah back, didn't undo 5 years of pain, didn't heal the wounds Darren had carved into both our souls. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us, cameras flashing, questions shouting. "Mr. Morgan, how does it feel to finally get justice for your sister?" Blake's lawyer stepped in. No comment. We pushed through the crowd to Blake's car. The second the doors closed, the noise disappeared. Silence filled the space between us. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. Blake stared out the windshield. "I don't know." I hesitated. "Do I go back to the mansion?" He turned to me, confused. "Where else would you go?" I thought, maybe now that the trial's over, you don't need me anymore. Understanding dawned on Blake's face. Then something like hurt. "Maria." His voice was soft. "You really think I only kept you around for the case?" I don't know what to think anymore. Blake reached over, taking my hand. "Let me be crystal clear. You are not a tool. Not a witness. Not a means to an end. You are..." He paused, searching for words. "You're family now. And family doesn't have expiration dates." Family. I'd forgotten what that word meant. The drive home, to Blake's mansion, my home now, was quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet. Peaceful, almost. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. Wasn't waiting for the next blow. Darren was locked away. Forever. When we pulled into the driveway, Blake killed the engine but didn't move. "Thank you," he said finally. "For what?" "For being brave enough to testify. For helping me find her. For..." His voice caught. "For reminding me what I was fighting for." I didn't know what to say to that. Blake cleared his throat, composing himself. "I know these past few months have been hell. The trial. The testimony. All of it. But it's over now. You can finally just be a kid. A kid. I was 17, barely a year away from being legally an adult, but I'd never gotten to just be a kid. Not really." "What does that even look like?" I asked. Blake almost smiled. "I guess we'll figure it out together." Over the next few months, something strange happened. I started healing, not all at once, not completely. Some wounds run too deep to ever fully close, but slowly, piece by piece, I started putting myself back together. I went back to school, private school this time, where nobody knew my story, where I was just Maria, the new girl. I made a friend, then another, small things, but they felt massive. I painted more. The darkness in my canvases started giving way to color, to light. And Blake started healing too. He sold Morgan Enterprises. Said he was tired of building empires while missing life. Instead, he started a foundation, the Sarah Morgan Foundation for Domestic Violence Victims. It helped kids like me, like Sarah. Kids trapped in hell with nowhere to turn. I can't save everyone, Blake told me one night over dinner. But I can try. Sarah would have wanted that. I smiled. She'd be proud of you. I think she'd be proud of both of us. My 18th birthday came on a Tuesday. Blake woke me up with pancakes. He'd gotten pretty good at cooking over the past year. "Happy birthday," he said, setting the plate down. "Thanks." I dug in, savoring the warmth. "I got you something." Blake pulled out an envelope. Inside was a key and legal documents. "What is this?" "The deed to the house," Blake said quietly. "It's in both our names now. Legally. Officially, this is your home. No matter what happens, no one can take it from you." Tears blurred my vision. "Blake, you're not just a guest here, Maria. You're not charity. You're my family." His voice was thick with emotion. "And I wanted you to know, this is permanent. You're not going anywhere unless you choose to." I set down my fork and walked around the table. Hugged him tight. "Thank you," I whispered. "For everything." Blake hugged me back. "Thank you for giving me a reason to keep going." That night I stood in front of my easel, staring at a blank canvas. For 3 years I'd painted darkness, pain, survival. But tonight I painted something different. 2 figures standing side by side, one tall, one smaller, both looking toward the horizon where the sun was rising. A girl who'd been beaten down but refused to stay broken. And a man who'd lost everything but found purpose in saving one life. We weren't perfect. We were both still healing, still carrying scars that would never fully fade. But we were alive. We were free. And we were home. Listen, I need to talk to you for a second. If you've made it this far in Maria's story, you're not just watching. You're invested. You care. And I have to be honest with you, this channel is brand new, just starting out. And without your support, stories like Maria's, stories that need to be told, they disappear into the void. I'm not asking for much. Just hit that like button. Takes 1 second. And if you haven't subscribed yet, come on now. You've watched this whole story. You've felt what Maria felt. You've rooted for Blake. Don't let this be the last story you hear from us. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who survived something, someone who's still surviving. Because these stories matter. Your support matters. Now let's finish this. 6 months after my 18th birthday, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. Plain envelope. No return address. Blake was out running errands, so I opened it alone. Inside was a single photograph and a handwritten note. The photo showed a young woman. Early 20s maybe. Dark hair, familiar eyes. My hands shook as I read the note. "My name is Rachel. Darren Hayes was my stepfather too. 12 years ago, before you. Before Sarah. I escaped when I was 16. I've been watching the trial, watching the news. And I need you to know, you're not alone. There are others. He hurt so many others. But you're the one who finally stopped him. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up when I couldn't. Thank you for making sure he'll never hurt anyone again." I read it 3 times. 12 years ago. Before Sarah. Before me. How many others had there been? How many girls had Darren destroyed before Blake finally stopped him? The thought made me sick. But it also made me realize something. My testimony hadn't just put one monster away. It had given a voice to every victim who'd been too scared to speak. When Blake came home, I showed him the letter. He read it silently, jaw tight. "There are more," he said quietly. "Aren't there?" "Probably." Blake set the letter down. "Then we find them. We reach out. We let them know they're not alone." "How?" "The foundation. We expand it. Make it a safe space for survivors to connect. To heal together." His eyes met mine. "You willing to share your story publicly?" My stomach clenched. Going public meant cameras, interviews, people knowing my worst moments, but it also meant hope for others still trapped, still suffering. Yeah, I said, I'm willing. The interview aired on a Tuesday night, national television, millions of viewers. I sat across from the host, a kind woman named Jennifer who'd built her career on telling hard stories with compassion. Maria, she said gently, you survived 3 years of abuse, testified against your abuser, helped solve a murder case. You were just 17 years old. How did you find the strength? The cameras felt like 1,000 eyes staring at me. I thought about lying, saying something inspiring, something that would make people feel good. But I'd promised myself, no more hiding. I didn't find strength, I said honestly. I just refused to die. There's a difference. Jennifer leaned forward. Tell me about that difference. Strength makes it sound like I had a choice, like I woke up one day and decided to be brave. I shook my head, but I didn't. I was terrified every single day. I kept breathing, kept surviving, because the alternative was letting him win. And Blake Morgan? The man who rescued you? My throat tightened. He saved my life. But more than that, he gave me a reason to want to live. The interview went on for an hour. We talked about everything. The abuse, the trial, the healing process. And at the end, Jennifer asked the question I'd been dreading. What would you say to other victims watching right now? People who are still trapped? I looked directly into the camera. I know you're scared. I know it feels impossible. I know you think no one cares, no one will believe you, no one will help. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. But you're wrong. There are people like Blake, like the prosecutors who fought for me, like the foundation workers who answer phones at 3 in the morning when you can't take it anymore. Tears streamed down my face. You are not alone. You are not worthless. You are not what they tell you you are. And there is a life waiting for you on the other side of this nightmare. I promise you. Please, reach out. Tell someone, anyone, because you deserve to be free. The response was immediate. Within 24 hours, the Foundation's hotline was flooded with calls, hundreds of them, people sharing their stories, asking for help, finally speaking up. Rachel, the woman who'd sent the letter, called me directly. I watched the interview, she said, crying, and for the first time in 12 years, I don't feel ashamed anymore. You should never have felt ashamed, I told her. None of this was your fault. I know that now. Because of you. We talked for 2 hours, compared stories, shared pain. And somehow, in the sharing, the pain felt lighter. Blake started receiving calls too. Other families who'd lost loved ones to domestic violence, people wanting to help. Donate. Volunteer. We're going to need a bigger office, he said one night, staring at the mountain of voicemails. I smiled. Good problem to have. Blake looked at me then. Really looked at me. You know what you've done, right? You've started a movement. I just told the truth. That's exactly what makes it powerful. He squeezed my shoulder. Sarah would be so proud of you. Hell, I'm proud of you. The words hit different coming from Blake, because he wasn't just my guardian. He wasn't just the man who'd saved me. He was my family. And for the first time in my life, I understood what that word really meant. 3 months later, the Foundation opened its first shelter, a safe house for women and children escaping abuse. 20 beds, 24-hour staffing, legal aid, counseling, job training. Everything I'd wished existed when I was trapped. Blake insisted I cut the ribbon. This is your victory, he said. You earned this. I stood in front of the building, scissors in hand, looking at the sign above the door. The Sarah Morgan House underneath. In smaller letters, founded by Blake Morgan and Maria Hayes. My name. Right there next to his. Equal partners in healing. I cut the ribbon, and the small crowd erupted in applause. But I wasn't thinking about the cameras or the reporters or the celebration. I was thinking about the girl I used to be. The one scrubbing floors with bloody hands. The one who'd given up hope. If she could see me now, she wouldn't believe it. That night I found Blake in his office, staring at Sarah's photo. "You okay?" I asked softly. He nodded. Just thinking about her. About what she would have accomplished if she'd lived. "She did accomplish something," I said. "She inspired you, and you inspired this whole thing. Every person we help, that's Sarah's legacy." Blake's eyes welled up. "You really believe that?" "I know it." I sat beside him. "Your sister's story didn't end in that basement. It's still being written. Every time we save someone, every time we give hope to the hopeless, that's Sarah living on." Blake pulled me into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." We sat there for a long time, two broken people who'd somehow found wholeness in each other, and I realized this was what family meant. Not blood, not biology, but choosing to show up, to fight for each other, to turn pain into purpose. We'd both lost so much, but together we'd built something beautiful from the ashes. 2 years passed like a dream. The foundation grew, 3 shelters now, across 3 different states. We'd helped over 500 families escape abuse, 500 lives saved. I finished high school, got accepted to art school, started therapy, real therapy, where I could finally unpack everything without judgment. Blake dated someone, a lawyer named Catherine who worked with domestic violence cases. She was kind, patient, good for him. Life was normal, whatever that meant. But some nights I still woke up screaming. Still felt Darren's hands around my throat even though he was locked away 3 states over. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I was fine, strong. Other days I couldn't get out of bed. Blake understood, never pushed. Just left food outside my door and a note that said, "I'm here when you're ready." One particular bad night, I found myself in the art studio at 3 a.m. painting furiously. The canvas turned black, then red, then black again. I was so lost in it I didn't hear Blake come in. "Can't sleep?" he asked quietly. I jumped, nearly knocking over paint. "Sorry. Did I wake you?" "No, I was up too." He moved closer, studying the canvas. "Nightmares?" "Always nightmares." Blake pulled up a stool beside me. "Want to talk about it?" "Same one as always. I'm back in that house. Darren's coming up the stairs. And I can't move. Can't run. Can't scream." My voice broke. And then I wake up and have to remind myself he's gone. That I'm safe. But it takes a minute. That minute where I'm still terrified. I couldn't finish. Blake's hand found mine. "I have nightmares too. About Sarah, about finding her too late, about all the what-ifs that eat at me. Does it ever stop? I don't know," he admitted. "But it gets easier to carry, especially when you're not carrying it alone." We sat in silence for a while, 2 survivors holding each other up. "Maria," Blake said finally, "I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. "What?" "The parole board contacted me. Darren's lawyer is filing appeals, claiming new evidence, trying to get his sentence reduced." Ice flooded my veins. "What? He got life without parole. How can he?" "It's a long shot. His lawyer's grasping at straws, but..." Blake's jaw tightened. "There's going to be another hearing, and they're asking if you'd be willing to testify again." No. I can't. Panic clawed up my throat. I can't see him again. I can't. "Hey, look at me." Blake gripped my shoulders. "You don't have to do anything. I'll testify. Catherine will handle it. You've done enough." But even as he said it, I knew the truth. If I didn't show up, if I didn't face Darren one more time, he'd still have power over me, and I was done giving him power. "I'll do it," I whispered. Blake searched my face. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. Those 3 weeks were torture. I barely slept, barely ate. The nightmares got worse, but I prepared, wrote down everything I wanted to say, practiced in front of the mirror until my voice stopped shaking. Catherine coached me. "His lawyer will try to rattle you, make you seem unreliable, emotional. Just stick to the facts, stay calm." Easy for her to say. The morning of the hearing, I threw up twice. Blake held my hair back, didn't say a word. "I can't do this," I whispered. "Yes, you can. And I'll be right there the whole time." The courtroom was smaller this time. Just the parole board. Darren in chains, his smug lawyer. When Darren saw me walk in, his face split into that familiar, cruel smile. My legs almost gave out, but Blake's hand found my back, steadying me. "You've got this," he whispered. The board chairman spoke. "Miss Hayes, thank you for coming. We understand this is difficult." Difficult. What an understatement. Mr. Hayes' attorney claims you fabricated portions of your testimony to gain sympathy, that the abuse wasn't as severe as you claimed, that you were coached by Mr. Morgan for financial gain. My blood boiled. "Do you have a response to these allegations?" I looked at Darren. At the monster who'd stolen 3 years of my life. Then I looked at Blake, at the man who'd given me a future. "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I have a response. Before we continue, I need you to do something for me. And I'm not asking lightly. If this story has touched you, if you've felt Maria's pain, if you've rooted for her survival, if any part of this has made you feel something real, I need you to show it. Hit that like button. Not for me. For every Maria out there who's still fighting, who's still surviving, who needs to know their story matters, subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep telling these stories. The hard ones, the real ones, the ones that need to be heard. And please, share this video with your daughter, your sister, your friend who needs to hear that survival is possible, that healing is possible. These stories save lives. Your engagement helps us reach more people who desperately need hope. Don't just watch and leave, be part of the solution. Now let's finish this. I stood up slowly, facing the parole board directly. Everything I testified to was true. Every bruise, every broken bone. Every night I prayed I wouldn't wake up because dying seemed easier than surviving one more day with him. Darren's smile faltered. His lawyer says I was coached, that I fabricated details for sympathy. I laughed bitterly. I wish I could fabricate this. I wish I could have made up the feeling of his boot in my ribs, the sound of my own bones cracking, the taste of blood in my mouth. "Miss Hayes," the chairman started. "I'm not finished." My voice rose. "You want to know if Blake Morgan coached me?" "Yes, he did. He coached me on how to breathe when panic attacks hit, how to sleep without nightmares, how to believe I deserved to be treated like a human being. That's the only coaching that happened." I turned to face Darren directly for the first time. "You want to reduce his sentence? Give him another chance at freedom?" My hands shook, but my voice stayed strong. "Then you're saying what he did to me doesn't matter? That Sarah Morgan's murder doesn't matter? That every girl he hurt before us doesn't matter?" Tears streamed down my face, but I didn't wipe them away. I came here today terrified. Terrified of seeing his face, of hearing his voice, of giving him one more second of power over my life. I took a breath. But I'm here anyway, because someone has to speak for the girls who can't. For Sarah, who never got her day in court. For Rachel, who spent 12 years silent. For everyone he destroyed. The room was dead silent. So no, I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't exaggerate. If anything, I left out the worst parts because I couldn't bear to say them out loud. I looked back at the board. Darren Hayes is exactly where he belongs. And if you let him out, you're telling every abuser in this country that they can get away with it. That all they need is a good lawyer and some lies. I sat down. My whole body shook. Blake's arm wrapped around my shoulders immediately. The chairman cleared his throat. Thank you, Miss Hayes. We'll take a brief recess. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. When they returned, the chairman's face was stone. After careful consideration of all testimony and evidence presented, this board has reached a unanimous decision. He looked directly at Darren. The appeal is denied. Your life sentence stands. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel struck. It was over. Darren exploded. This is bullshit. You can't do this. I have rights. Guards dragged him out, still screaming. But I didn't hear it. All I heard was Blake's voice in my ear. You did it. It's really over now. 3 years after that final hearing, I stood in front of a mirror adjusting my graduation gown. College graduate, art degree, honors. The girl who once scrubbed floors with bloody hands was now an artist, a survivor, a voice for the voiceless. Blake knocked on the door. You ready? I turned around. He was older now, more gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes, but lighter somehow. Like he'd finally set down a weight he'd carried too long. Almost. I fidgeted with my cap. Blake, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? Coming for me that night? All the chaos that followed? Blake's expression softened. He walked over, placed both hands on my shoulders. Maria, you were the best decision I ever made. Even though I brought all that pain back? Made you relive Sarah's death? You didn't bring pain back. You helped me transform it. His voice was thick. Before you, I was drowning in guilt, hunting ghosts, barely living. You gave me purpose. Gave me a reason to wake up every morning and try to make something good out of something terrible. Tears blurred my vision. And more than that, Blake continued, you taught me what family really means. Not blood, not obligation, but choice. Every single day, choosing to show up for each other. You saved my life, I whispered. No, Blake smiled. We saved each other. The graduation ceremony was beautiful. Catherine was there. She and Blake had gotten married last year. A small ceremony at the shelter with survivors as witnesses. Rachel came too. She'd become one of the foundation's lead counselors, helping other survivors navigate their healing journey. And in the audience, scattered throughout, faces I recognized. Women from the shelters, men who'd escaped abuse, families we'd helped rebuild. They weren't just watching me graduate. They were celebrating their own victories, their own survival. When they called my name, the cheers were deafening. Maria Hayes, Bachelor of Fine Arts, summa cum laude. I walked across that stage, diploma in hand, and thought about the girl I used to be. The one who believed she'd die in that house, who thought she was worthless, unlovable, broken beyond repair. I wished I could go back and tell her, you survive this, you thrive, you become someone who helps others survive too. But maybe I didn't need to go back. Maybe telling her story, my story, was enough. That evening, Blake and I sat on the mansion's back patio watching the sunset. So, what's next? He asked. You've got your degree. The world's open now. I'd been thinking about this for months. I want to start an art program at the shelters for kids who've been through trauma. I looked at him. Art saved me, Blake. When I couldn't find words for the pain, I could paint it. I want to give other kids that outlet. Blake's eyes glistened. Sarah would love that. She always wanted to be an art teacher, you know, before he stopped. Swallowed hard. Before Darren. Then I'll do it for both of us. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from gold to pink to deep purple. Blake, I said quietly, thank you. For everything. for seeing me when I was invisible, for believing I was worth saving when I didn't believe it myself, for giving me a family when I had none. Blake reached over, squeezed my hand. Thank you for letting me, for trusting me despite everything, for teaching me that healing is possible, that hope isn't just for fairy tales. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving us in twilight, and I realized this was the life I never expected. Not perfect. Still hard some days. The nightmares still came occasionally. The scars, physical and emotional, would never fully disappear. But I was free. Truly free. Free from fear. From shame. From the voice in my head that said I deserved the pain. I'd been beaten down, but I'd risen. I'd been broken, but I'd healed. I'd been lost, but I'd found my way home. And now? Now I would spend the rest of my life helping others find their way too. Because that's what survivors do. We don't just survive. We transform our pain into purpose, our trauma into triumph, our darkness into light for others still trapped in the shadows. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was our story. Every person who'd ever felt worthless. Every child who'd endured abuse. Every soul who'd wondered if life was worth living. This was for them. This was for you. Now I need to talk to you, heart to heart. If you're watching this right now, you're not here by accident. Maybe you survived something too. Maybe you're still surviving. Maybe you know someone who needs to hear this story. I want you to know something. You matter. Your story matters. Your pain is real and your healing is possible. I need you to do something brave right now. In the comments below, share your story. You don't have to give details if you're not ready. Just tell me, are you Maria? Are you still fighting? Have you found your Blake? Or are you someone who wants to be a Blake for someone else? This comment section is a safe space, a place where survivors support survivors, where hope is shared, where we remind each other that we're not alone. Tell me where you are in your journey. Stuck in the darkness? Climbing toward the light? Already free but still healing? Whatever it is, share it. Because your words might be the lifeline someone else desperately needs tonight. And listen, if this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, if it reminded you that survival is possible, I'm asking you to do 3 things. Hit that like button. Show me this story mattered to you. Subscribe to this channel. Because there are more stories like Maria's that need to be told. More survivors who need to be heard, and your subscription helps us reach them. Share this video, please, with your daughter who's struggling, your friend who's trapped, your sister who needs hope, your mother who survived something she never talks about. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Because here's the truth. These stories save lives. Your engagement, your comments, your shares, they create a ripple effect that reaches people in dark places who are searching for light. Don't just watch and leave. Be part of this movement. Be part of the healing. As William Shakespeare once wrote, though she be but little, she is fierce. Maria was fierce. You are fierce. And together, we are unstoppable. The night is always darkest before the dawn, but the dawn always comes. And if you're still in your darkest night right now, hold on. Your dawn is coming too. I promise. You are not alone. You are worthy. You are loved. And your story isn't over yet. The best chapters are still being written. This story is dedicated to every survivor who found the courage to speak up, every Blake who chose to be someone's hero, and every Sarah whose memory inspires us to do better. May we never forget. May we always fight. May we continue to transform darkness into light. One story at a time. One survivor at a time. One life at a time.